House of the Dragoon. Episode 6. Weight. Emotional weight. Thematic weight is the name of the game for episode 6, in my opinion, and it acts as a lot of the connective tissue for what was happening before this time jump. I think that was the big question on every fan's mind, obviously. How successful is this show going to be able to jump 10 years and maintain a feeling of being the same story? And that's asking a lot, not only of the fans, but of the writers. They need to do so much work to make sure you feel when we leave off here and pick up here, it's the same story and how characters have moved, positioned, without it feeling like too much has happened for us to have missed things we should have seen. That's not an easy task. And enough has happened to justify a time skip. It doesn't feel like everyone's just holding still. Looking back where we've ended those first 5 episodes and said the story is done here, we're going to pick up here. I don't know what episode 6 would have possibly done if it had still been taking place in that time. It really felt like good, done, end of Act 1. Act 2. The crowning achievement of this time skip is Rhaenyra for me. I know probably for some people out there it's not going to be as smooth, but I really see this actress picking up that character and running with it in such a believable way where I was just, yep, done, that's Rhaenyra. Even if she didn't look like Millie Alcock nearly as much, I still would get like, oh yeah, that is this character from this big jump forward, and I just appreciate that level of effort. The small mannerisms, the continuation of specific vibes for various relationships. And of course, there were a couple characters who, after this time jump, I was like, oh, like, that's not exactly how I felt they were going to be, or it feels like maybe the character should have gone a slightly different way. I'm thinking specifically boy here and Alicent. Alicent is just so negative. It wasn't how I originally thought she was going to be portrayed. It wasn't how I pictured the character. But now that I've sat with that performance for a bit, I really like it. And I see how, okay, it just means that things went worse than I predicted they'd go. And I'm okay with this portrayal as well. I especially love that King Viserys is now just coming across to me like an old man with a train set. Like the guy who's just working on his model. He has opinions, but everyone's just steamrolling over him, and he's more just become a hollow puppet king. It's such a clear evolution from what he already was. The flaws that we saw in a younger Viserys have only grown more cancerous, reflective of his sickness as a whole. And I would say at this point, he's just a completely ineffectual king. He can't keep his house together. His desperate attempts that hurt his kingdom as a whole to try and just ease things at home have completely backfired in his face. And the kingdom itself is more or less, it seems, just functioning with him not even hands on the wheel. So yeah, for spoiler-free thoughts, I'm just going to say this was much more successful than I initially thought it was going to be. I didn't think it was going to be bad by any means, but I was kind of thinking it might feel like a whole new show is starting. And fortunately, from my own personal experience, that is not the case. It's just such a clean continuation on. But let's go ahead and get into spoiler talk here. And that's where I'm going to come back to boy here. We already know this guy was pathetic because he spent one night with a woman and assumed that meant she was going to throw her entire life away to just live happily ever after for him. But seeing how he has taken that rejection and his insane outlash and is now just working for Alicent, which one, still, that's maybe the biggest, like, how is this guy still allowed to be a thing here for me? I don't know how even the queen could have had him be, like, not only not punished for what he did, but then just trusted to be right at her side. That's the only point where I'm like, okay. And it's the one big change from the book and how that went down that at first I was really okay with it. The more I think about it though, it's creating some issues and more reflective on changes from source material. There are some things where I'm starting to see like, why necessarily did you do that versus this? They're not anywhere near big or bad enough for me to feel like this is a disservice to the source material or anything just beyond a curiosity that I hope justifies itself more so later on. Because yeah, when you're translating from one medium to another, you have to make all kinds of changes to try and condense, and also budget. You don't want to set up a bunch of different sets. You gotta make things happen in similar settings. I don't know. I'd love to see an in-depth behind the scenes to explain all that, but we'll never get it because we don't get things like that anymore because fun isn't profitable.
I may have gone too far in a few places.
My least favorite part of this episode, I'm gonna sound like a broken record, was just everything with the kids. I'm not a fan of child actors. I think there's obviously some things being set up there were a bit too blunt for me. I wanted a little more tact. But of course, this brings me to talking about Damon, who, in the irony of ironies, has to deal with essentially his wife dying in a similar way to his sister-in-law. And seeing the woman who's in this situation decide, that I am not allowing this to happen and I'm going out this way. And obviously she had heard that another baby who had gone through the same thing hadn't made it, and so there was no way for her to like guarantee that she'd go through all this suffering and still have her child live. So I think her logic was just like, I'm not gonna let you do that to me, no way. And I can respect that. I will also say the show is moving a bit quickly overall for me. I do feel the episode constraints, and for some reason what feels like runtime limits, which you're streaming, why aren't you doing as long as you want? Apparently there's even some cut scenes here where I'm like, why did you cut it? You could keep it as long as you want. But I think there is just a fear overall of we really have to do a lot of setup and payoff, and if you know what's to come in the books, there's still several beats to hit. So I get why maybe they are really trying to just go, 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 go. But this show could benefit, in my opinion, from having, I don't know, a director's cut, if we could ever get that in the future. And this means we can finally talk about the dragons. I want to give all the props to the people who are working the VFX and those directing those working the VFX for bringing such distinct personalities to various dragons here and having them look and even fly and just small movements so different. It's really delivering on what I was looking for having dragons that feel distinct while still keeping them feeling like animals. You don't want to have them start to have a like Aragon, not that there's anything wrong with that approach, because it's just not matching with what this is. Here, they've kept them feeling dangerous and unpredictable, but there's like a weight to this one, and a lethality to that one, and obviously a juvenility to another one, and they all just, I love me some dragons. And I'm at a level of confidence now where I'm like, wait, this whole season could end on the same level it's been delivering all the way up until this point. That's like my last big hesitation. Is House of the Dragon be able to end on a high that will equal the highs it's been delivering so far? And I don't see why not. I mean, the foundation's been so great that it's been able to springboard to another foundation, just kind of being able to set almost instantly due to how well the connective tissue was established. So this might be, like, in terms of enjoyment, not my favorite episode of House of the Dragon, but in terms of just how impressed I am with the show and what it's being able to do, my favorite episode of House of the Dragon. The only thing that really sucks is I will miss the younger actresses for Alicent and Rhaenyra. They were fantastic. They are excellent. But that has just been my thoughts for House of the Dragon episode 6. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And are you happy with some of the changes from the books if you have read it? I'm curious on people's thoughts on that exactly and how it's succeeding as an adaptation separate from how it's succeeding as a show. Because we've talked about here on the channel, those are two very different things. Anyway, y'all, I got books, I got merch. Have a good one. Peace.